Hello, how you doing? Welcome back. Brian Barolo here, and I'm at Resolution Rentals, a video rental house. I'm here to show you how to install, or how I install, female Camlock connectors onto wire or feeder cable. Okay, the first thing you should do, well, the connectors that we're using are these guys here, Marinco. Okay, not a big deal. But anyway, every package of a connector comes with the connector, comes with 2 pieces of copper foil, comes with 2 Allen screws for the connector itself, and it comes with a strain relief wire and instructions. Okay. Read the instructions before you even start. That is a suggestion. I also have a trash can here for all my trash. So let's get started. I did a previous video on how to install male camlocks. This is going to be for females, slightly different, but basically the same. Okay, what I do is I take my loom of 5 wires, and this consists of a ground and 3 hots and a neutral. Okay. I don't need these heat shrinks because I don't have labels on them. Don't need those. Okay, so let's start. First thing I'm going to do is pick whichever wire I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with the white one right here. Okay, now the white one is going to take a white boot and a connector. First thing I'm going to do is take this boot because this hole is too small for the wire, doesn't fit. Get it? Okay, so what I'm going to do, there's increments marked on these connectors, on these boots, and along these lines here is where you should snip. And I've already figured this out, and I'm going to the 4/8 mark here. These are all measured, I guess, in millimeters. And I'm going to line up my cutters. And I'm going to line it up onto that little rib there, and I'm going to cut it off because it's too small. I need to make it a little bit bigger. Of course, making a video and things don't go perfect. Trash. Okay, now I have a bigger hole so that it'll fit. Okay, the very first thing I'm going to do is take a lubricant. I'm going to spray the inside at the bottom of the boot a little bit so that I get some lubricant in there, and I'm going to take my white or my neutral wire because I already marked it with a white, and these red marks are just a length mark of 50 feet. That's a different story. So I'm going to take my white wire, I'm going to feed it into the connector and slide it right on down, just like so. Now the next step, I'm going to take my copper foil. I'm going to measure, excuse me, I got some lubricant on my hands here. I keep a rag to take the excess lubricant off. And now I'm going to take my copper foil, I'm going to line it up on my wire here, and I measure roughly how long it is, how much I need to snip off of the cable. I just line my cutters up. You can do this with a tape measure and a marker if you want. Whatever's going to suit your fancy. Whatever's going to work best for you. I cut all the way around with my loppers. This is what I use. Everybody uses something different. Some people might use snips. Some people might use a razor knife. But I don't like using those. I like using the cutters. They're going to cut for me correctly in the way that I like to have them cut. So I'm used to it. I cut it. Excuse me. Excuse me. I cut the boot off, the rubber off of the cable, and I checked to make sure I didn't cut any wires, and no, I did not. So I did a good cut. Now I'm going to take my foil, I'm going to line it up right onto the wire, and I'm going to wrap the wire. I'm going to try and keep this wrap as tight as I possibly can. I don't like the airspace or the gaps in there between the copper foil and the actual wire, which is a conductor. So now this all becomes one conductor. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. Now the next step is to take my strain relief. I'm going to put this onto the cable, approximately an inch, half-inch down from the top, roughly. I'm going to take my two wires. I'm going to crisscross them. And then I'm going to take my hand, my fingers, and I'm going to give a twist. I got one twist on there. Now I'm going to take pliers and I'm going to grab this twisted knot and I'm going to keep twisting it until I get it to cinch up onto the rubber of the rubber jacket of the cable. Now the directions say to do this exact movement 2 to 3 full turns in order to cinch the cable and make the copper wire, which is the strain relief, nice and taut against the actual cable jacket. Sometimes they work really good. Sometimes you got to fight with them. And this one I'm fighting with a little bit. But I seem to have gotten it pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to take these wires here, the excess, I'm just going to twist them around a little bit. Now I'm going to push them up. I'm going to take my pliers and crimp them up onto the actual cable. So I'm going to flatten it out along the cable itself. Take the wires and match it up along the copper foil. Try to get it to sit pretty normal, and it's ready to go into the connector. Now I'm going to take my connector. I'm going to take my 2 Allen screws, just like so, and I'm going to screw them in. And I'm going to screw them down about 4 times to make sure that they're not bulging into the connector itself. I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I can't quite do it. So now I'm going to take my Allen key and put it in there, and I'm going to screw it in to where I see the bottom of the nut start coming, the bottom of the Allen screw start coming into the connector itself. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but inside the connector here, you can see where the tip of this will start to stick out. You don't want that to go in too far because then you're going to have a problem inserting your cable. So I do it so I just see them right at the edge of their socket. Okay, next step is to take this wire with the strain relief. Make sure the strain relief is on the bottom side opposite of the Allen screws. So I'm going to squish it and put it in there. So I have the cable going in and the wires are actually on the bottom and the Allen screws are on top. Okay, so that's in pretty tight. I'm going to grab hold of it with my hand and I'm just going to hold it in place. If you're not careful, it will spin and then your strain relief will be on the side and not on the bottom. So you have to hold it tight. And I screw the bottom screw in first because that is closest to the end towards the jacket of the cable, so that'll hold it in place. And then the second one on top will just be a secondary lockdown. Now I'm not putting a torque wrench on this, and it does call for 160 foot-pounds when tightening it. I just tighten it as tight as I can get it. And I don't want to over tighten it, and you don't want to bottom out those little screws because then you'll never get them out and you're screwed. Get it? So anyway, here we go. Let me get my second one in there. Okay, looks pretty good to me. Wires in there, opposite of the screws. Screws are in tight. My foil's in there. It feels good, nice and tight. I feel good about it. Okay, next step is I'm going to take this boot. I'm going to start to slide it back. Slide it right back up to the, before I do that though, catch myself, this is something I do. Not everyone will do this, and everybody does things slightly different. So write the book, and then it's a little excessive is what I am. So I take a little bit of the colored tape, and I will start at the strain relief, and I will myself wrap the tape down the wire so that it comes out past the boot here, but not here. It'll be up here when it's installed. You'll see in a moment. So I will do a couple of wraps down a few inches below where the connector will come out. And then I will go back again. This way I'm getting a double wrap of electrical tape. You don't have to do this. I prefer to kind of re-solidifies the fact that these connectors are supposed to be watertight. That's a whole nother story. We're not going there today. So anyway, here we go. Jam a little more tape in there. Break it off. Okay. So now I have my connector. I have my tape. I'm going to slide my boot right up. Now, when you slide the boot right up, it has a screw hole right here. And this screw hole has to match up with this screw hole here so that you can insert your screw. Okay? So these are females, are a lot more difficult to get on. So once you get up to the connector here, you have to really do some force unless you go get those expensive tools or you make a jig and you lock this baby down so you can force the boot in there. Me, I'm doing it freehand here. You can copy me. You can find the best way for you to do it. Okay, so I got my arrow lined up, top screw on the top side, and I'm going to take the connector in my hand. I'm going to take the boot in the other hand, and I'm going to force this on. I have to get this little lip around that connector. It's not easy. And sometimes you wiggle, you jiggle. Sometimes the boot will couple up or whatever. But once you get it going, it shouldn't be so hard. Then I just push and push and push and push. And then you pull on the cable in the back and it'll pop right in. There you go. Popped right in and it went in too far. So now I got to find the screw hole. And one way to look for that is if you look inside, you can see a little divot in there. This little divot in here at the top. That has to be at the top aligned with the screw. That's all in the same direction. So if I look at the divot, it needs to turn. And it needs to go out some. And then I can see the screw hole inside the screw hole. Okay? How about that? A screw hole inside a screw hole. Okay, so now I'm going to put the screw in, but I have to make sure that this is perfectly aligned. And then I can take the screw, and it's got a shaft on it. And I'm going to put that screw in there and make sure it lines up. If it does not line up, I will pull on the cable, twist the cable, whichever way to get that screw so that I can start to screw it in manually with my hands. Because if not, then I'm going to not lined up correctly. There we go. Okay, so I got it. Now I'm going to take my flathead screwdriver and I'm going to screw it in. And that's all there is to doing females. These are female Camlock connectors, but they're not Camlock brand. So anyway, you'll see it's in, it's on. I have tape coming out. It helps seal the boot on the bottom, and it's all ready to go. That's simple. Now to do the rest. I'm going to do a ground here because the ground is a little different because I'm using 6-gauge wire for this and not 2-gauge. 2-gauge for the 3 hots for 3-phase 5-wire feeder, and I'm doing a 6-gauge for a ground. So there's 3 hots and a neutral that are 2-gauge, number 2 gauge American wire gauge, and the number 6 American wire gauge for the ground. Now the problem is the ground hole is still not big enough, so I got to find a way to open it up without cutting this off, because if I cut this off, then it's going to be really loose and it won't be tight and it won't be watertight. So what I do is I simply take my razor knife and I will trim out some of the hole on the back of this boot here, and then I'll be able to get it onto my cable. Okay, I just poured out a little bit of it, and then I'm going to take some lubricant here. Spray the lubricant. I'm going to take my wire, force it in. There you go. I'm going to take my towel. I'm going to wipe off the excess lubricant because I really don't need it. It's just going to cause me problems. I'm going to take my connector. I'm going to take my wires. I'm going to get my 2 Allen screws and my strain relief. there's supposed to be 2 of these in here, and sometimes you get gypped and you only get 1. But that's okay. I have 1 from the previous one. So I'm going to do 2 now. Let me get it down. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to line this up. And I'm going to see where I have to strip my wire. I'm going to put my cutters there. I'm going to cut and just cut the boot. Be careful not to cut the wires. And however you manage to do that, you do it. Not everybody's the same. Okay, there we go. Nice clean wire there. So now I'm going to take my copper foil and I'm going to roll it up. Try and keep it as tight as I possibly can to cover the wire. And since this wire is so small, it's only number 6, and it's such a big connector, I'm going to take 2 pieces of foil and roll it twice. They send me 2 pieces, why not use them? It kind of buffers out the wire and the connection, makes it a little bit easier and fuller, and it'll be safer in the long run. Okay, so now I'm going to take my strain relief about a 1/2 inch down. I'm going to crisscross my 2 wires, and then I'm going to take my hands and do 1 turn. I'm going to take my pliers, and I'm going to do 2 to 3 full turns to get this strain relief to cinch down onto the cable for my total strain relief so it does not come out. Okay, I'm going to take the rest of the wires. I'm just going to spin them up. Take my pliers. I'm going to press it against the wire so that it's flat and flush the best I can. Okay. Now I have a little bit of excess wire. You'll see the wire sticking up above there. So I need to trim that off because I do not want that extra wire there, because that'll keep me from getting my whole copper foil and wire into my connector. Okay, see, it's not quite up to that height, so that'll work for me. Sorry, hand cramp, thumb cramp. I've been doing this for too long, and it's happening. Okay, so now I have my wire and my connector ready to go. I'm going to take my Allen screws and put those in. Again, I'm going to turn them 4 or 5 times until I see the bottom of it just starting to stick out a little bit. Can't quite see it. Maybe you can. I got lights in my eyes, so I can't. And I'm doing this at Resolution Rentals. That's Resolution Rentals. You know what? I should pull the sticker up. Show you real quick. Sorry there, folks. The company I'm building these for. Okay, there you go. They allow me to do these videos. I'm using their lights and just doing this on my laptop. Okay, so I got my 2 Allen screws in there. I got my wire with my strain relief and my copper. Again, the strain relief must go opposite, or on the bottom, opposite of these Allen screws. So I'm going to squeeze them all in there like so. See that? There you go. It's opposite. I'm going to hold that in place. Again, I'm doing this freehand. You have a jig or something or tools, you can use those. I've been doing it for so long, so many decades, I can do it freehand. No big deal. And I'm going to tighten it down. I grab the connector, I use my Allen key, and I tighten it. I get the bottom one first, simply because it locks everything in, and then I'll take the top one, and that's a second lockdown for this. Get it in there, and let's tighten this baby down. And the hard part's getting the actual boot onto the connector. So, okay, I feel good about that. There's my wire. Everything's feeling pretty good, pretty straight. Slide my boot up. Oh, before I do the boot, I always remember I like to do the E tape. Again, I start where my strain relief is, and then I will go down the wire and then back up the wire. This is to help me reassure that my hole in the bottom of the boot will be more water resistant or help keep the water out. There's no guarantee that it's going to be waterproof, and I find it really hard to find things that are waterproof. But Camlocks are supposed to be, because they're outdoor, all-weather connectors. And you can do whatever you want with the tape. You don't have to do it. Depends on how tight the connection is. I like to do it. It also sticks out below the actual connector. And here we go. This is the hard part. Again, you have to line it up. You have an arrow on here. The arrow should stay on top because this screw hole here has to match this screw hole here for the screw to go in. Okay, so here it takes a little bit of effort. I'm going to hold on to the connector and I'm going to work the boot onto it. Once I get it on, I'm just going to shove it in. Just like so. Now it's on it all the way. I'm going to pull on the back of the boot a little bit and it's going to pop in. You'll feel it boom, into place. Now you got to push, turn, whatever, just so you can see that screw hole inside the screw. You can take your screw and you put it in there. If it lines up, it'll start to thread. If it doesn't, you might have to jiggle the wire, turn the wire, or a little something to get that screw hole lined up to get the screw in. Then you just screw down the screw and this locks it down. And you are done. Got a little bit of green here, seals up the hole there. Good job. Okay, I'm going to do the next view, but I don't have to do that in front of you. Any questions? Contact me. Brian Barolo. You can find me online, social medias. I have brianshealth.com. I have brianbarolo.com. Touch base and do me a favor. Subscribe to my channel, my YouTube channel, and I'll bring you lots more down the road. Okay, we're looking forward to seeing you. Good luck on your installation of Camlocks onto your feeder cable. All right, you all take care now. And where's my end screen? Okay, see you later. Ciao.